Okay, thank you, Michael. Let's climb straight into the technical detail. Let's have a look at where Cognitio sits in the whole picture. What you can see at the minute on the screen, a very traditional scenario. Enterprises, as we know, will almost certainly all be capturing and storing lots and lots of data. And this data is likely to be stored perhaps in an enterprise data warehouse, maybe in some legacy systems, maybe in some Hadoop clusters, maybe even in some departmental solutions or other repositories. And the chances are there's some kind of reporting carried out at this level. So on top of this persistence layer, there are normally a number of BI tools, including MicroStrategy, of course, maybe some OLAP client tools, and almost certainly, I bet there are lots of Microsoft Excel users. So we have all of these pieces battling for airtime and continually hammering the persistence layer. Now, as Michael has just explained, our Kognitio analytical appliance adds the golden layer to this picture. And this layer offers two very, very important benefits. Firstly, incredible query and analytics performance. And secondly, the ability to enjoy this performance over huge volumes of data. Now, the reason for these two benefits are really very simple indeed. And in fact, you can see them marked on the slide. The way to get the very best performance for your analytics is simply by making the CPUs you have available work as hard as they possibly can. Now, one of Cognitio's key features is that it's a true MPP technology. So everything which takes place is completely parallelized. And furthermore, the way to really make those CPUs work flat out is to make sure that your data is as close to them as possible. So we put it in memory. We eliminate disk I/O by holding that data in memory. And it's this combination of in-memory and MPP which gives us tremendous query performance, sometimes tens, maybe even hundreds of times faster than before. So as Michael indicated, we're going to go quickly into the demo. I'm just going to set the context a little bit here before we move into MicroStrategy itself. Now, a standard MicroStrategy installation includes 5 analytics modules. Some of you may have explored these, some of you may not have looked at them. But each of them contains a sample Microsoft Access database, a set of reports and documents or dashboards, and a PDF which describes the data model and those reports. Now, we've made use of one of these for today's demo. And the one we've chosen is the sales and distribution analysis. It contains two fact tables and 26 dimension tables. There are 77 reports split into 5 different little sections or areas and 6 documents or dashboards. Now, the Access version, which we'll look at in a minute, has 970,000 transactions in those fact tables. So a bit under 1 million transactions. And that Access database is on the same server as our MicroStrategy instance, which we'll have a look at. Now, what we have done is taken that standard module and built a much larger Cognitio version of that database. So we've actually taken the fact data and loaded it 1,000 times. So our Cognitio database contains almost 1 billion rows of data as opposed to the million in Access. Now, that's running off a small Cognitio cluster in the cloud. So it's obviously got a bit more hardware than the Access version, but it's nowhere near the 1,000 times increase that you may expect. Okay, so let's flip straight over to MicroStrategy. On the top half of the screen here, you can see our Cognitio version. And on the bottom half of the screen, you can see our Microsoft Access version. So let's kick off and run a couple of sample reports. Let me just move into both at the same time. Okay, you can see the 5 different areas which I indicated ship with this little analysis module. Let's look at quotation analysis first of all. Okay, and let's go into quotation analysis. This report, quarterly rejected quotation items by organization. So I'm going to kick off the Cognitio one, scroll down and kick off the Access one. Okay, we've got a few little parameters we need to select. I'm just going to select, let's select 3 of them. Select the same 3 in both our examples. Okay, and let's run the Cognitio report. Let's run the access report. Okay, now they should both just take a couple of seconds. There we go. We've got the Cognitio results back. Let me scroll down so you can see them all. And there are our access results back. So you can see, for example, in San Francisco, Wholesale Market West, we've got 9,000 quotation items, 3,000 rejected, and a net rejected amount of $315 million. So that's our default access database. You can see our Cognitio instance at the top of the screen. We're seeing 9 million quotation items, 3 million rejected items, and a total rejected amount of $315 billion. So you can very easily see the 1,000 times multiple for our Cognitio database. Now they both returned in pretty much the same amount of time. So let me run a second report. Move back to the little index. Now for the second report, we're going to have a look at one of our sales order analysis reports. Customer sales analysis. Okay, we're going to look at the top report here, the customer loyalty orders 2 consecutive quarters report. So I'll kick off both at the same time. They have a default selection here of 2010 for the year, so I'm going to accept that's fine. I'm going to run the Cognitio one, run the Access one, and at this point I'm going to hand over to my colleague to discuss this report in more detail. So let me introduce to you Dr. Sharon Kirkham.
Thanks, Trevor. Good afternoon, morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. So we can see that the Cognitio demo on the top has actually come back already. So let's scroll down and just show you the results on there. And while the Access one is running, let me go into why Cognitio outperforms other platforms as the complexity of the queries increase. In this case, remember that Cognitio is running on 1,000 times more data, and also remember that it isn't running on 1,000 times more hardware, but just a small cluster. Okay, so why does Cognitio outperform other platforms? Well, the first thing is that Cognitio is in memory. So this gives the CPUs that are in that small cluster a much faster access to the data than a disk-based system. Also, as Trevor mentioned earlier, Cognitio is MPP, and this utilizes all the available CPU cores on that system to crunch through all of this data much more effectively. And finally, Cognitio is also designed for mixed analytical workloads, so is ideally suited for the types of queries that MicroStrategy submits out of the back end. Now, this includes this example, which has more joins to the fact table and more complex SQL situated within inside it. Because it's a report where the quarters are being compared to each other, that means that there's actually multipass SQL going on for both sets of reports in this case. And in fact, the Access version of the demo is still not coming back and actually takes over 2 minutes to run in this case. Just back in time before I go on to the back to the PowerPoint. And there again we can see that the Cognitio numbers are in fact 1,000 times higher than the Access ones. Okay, so back to the PowerPoint. Okay, so let me just go into a bit more detail into why Cognitio will help accelerate BI performance, but in particular MicroStrategy. Okay, so as I'm sure you're aware, MicroStrategy has a vast and rich set of functionality available within it, and it has many ways to implement end-user requirements, many ways to get to the end report that the user demands. These options that are available to you are often restricted by the performance and flexibility of the platform that's supporting your MicroStrategy environment. Of course, because you have to think about timely delivery, be it in terms of batch processes or on-demand reporting. So today, end users that were once happy with standard reports are demanding more and more information within those reports. For example, if a user wants to be able to specify their own groups within a report rather than rely on a standard set defined and reported on over and over, then there's a number of ways that you can approach this in MicroStrategy. A couple being that I've outlined on the slide are you might set up a report using custom groups with a series of prompted filters, and or a report based on the input from another report that defines those specific groups. Either way, these two processes, these two types of reports will submit much more complex SQL and querying out the back of MicroStrategy, and you need a platform that can perform when asked to do these tasks. As well as individual reports becoming more complex, there's also an increased demand from end users for more complex documents and dashboards within MicroStrategy. They might have interactive links, feeds to other hyperlinks to other reports, drilling functionality to be able for you to get to the detail. Again, all of these things means that there will be more complex, multi-pass demand for information coming out of the back of MicroStrategy, and this again requires a platform that performs. So as well as all this more complex information and demands from the end user, we've also got the situation where users, say at a departmental level, might have insight that they're very happy with, but they want to roll it out over the whole business, or in that case, that means that we're rolling it out over all of the data or large subsets of it. So what you need to remember here is that Cognitio runs analytics over big data, as we've demonstrated, and because that's in memory, that gives you the flexibility to be able to furnish these demands. So as well as the more complex information demands over big data, end users are also demanding more report level flexibility within an individual report. MicroStrategy has many ways to support this. For example, you could introduce object prompts, which allow you to choose report content, so you can choose the measures within the report or the attributes that you're going to define the report over. Also, you might want to enable drill anywhere functionality within MicroStrategy, which allows the end users to chase the insight into the details in the data. However, both of these have a consequence in that, as you're probably aware, MicroStrategy caches the results of an executed report so that it can be reused on a regular basis by people coming in and asking for the same report subsequently. However, if you have the ability for a user to define the information that they want within the report, then it becomes increasingly unlikely that the cache that's being held at present will be able to satisfy the next request that comes in for the same report. So the actual caches become redundant, and we need to go into the platform more regularly to satisfy more reports, and this becomes much more likely. So you need a platform that can perform this kind of analytical workload for many concurrent users. Okay, there's just a few examples of how Kognitio and MicroStrategy work well together. One of the things that I want to just cover off in a little bit more detail before I give a few examples of performance is MicroStrategy Intelligent Cubes. For those who aren't familiar with these, they're basically cached reports that typically contain many aggregated measures over a series of attributes. So effectively, they're a large report that's cached in an efficient manner within MicroStrategy to be used by subsequent reports to provide those reports with the answers that they need in order to provide to the end user. There's typically two types of issues with intelligent cubes, and they come under two general types of constraint: time and space. So if we think about time constraints, typically intelligent cubes are published on, say, a daily basis within a batch window, and problems can arise as the number of cubes proliferate or the size of the cubes proliferate into fitting these intelligent cube publishing builds into this particular window. Well, if you have Cognitio supporting your MicroStrategy platform, then actually the cube build will be significantly faster. The cube builds are likely to take place over a large subset of data, and therefore can take quite a significant amount of time. But with an analytical platform like Cognitio supporting them, then these builds will become much quicker. Now, what does this mean for the administrator of the MicroStrategy environment or the end user? Well, first of all, if you've got a shorter batch window, you've got much more time to be able to address any issues should they arise. And as we all know, the BI world is not ideal and perfect all the time, and there will be issues. It's nice to know that you've got time to be able to sort them out before the end users come in at 9 AM at the start of the business day, demanding all the information. Secondly, as we move to a case where there's more demand for real-time reporting, we might want to be doing more frequent cube refreshes on a regular basis, so that people can keep more up to date with what's going on in their particular department or store or whatever. So the other side of the intelligent cube constraint issue is one with space. So as end users demand more details, they might demand more and more measures within their intelligent cube, or they might demand reporting over more and more attributes. The cubes start to grow so large that they actually become too large to cache comfortably. In this case, you can utilize the fact that Cognitio runs effectively over the data at the granular level to actually say, okay, I'm going to restrict the dimensions within my cube and utilize MicroStrategy's dynamic sourcing, and then actually push the resultant queries that are at a lower level back into the platform to satisfy the reports that need that detail. And that combination means that you have an environment that runs both off of intelligent cubes and Cognitio very effectively. So before I pass back to Michael, I just want to talk a little bit about some performance that I've seen in some projects that I've worked on recently where we've utilized Cognitio in MicroStrategy. So if we concentrate on the graph on the left to start with, this is comparing performance when we introduce Cognitio on top of Teradata, and we can see the performance between Cognitio and Teradata alone. Okay, now this is based on client data and queries, so obviously I can't give out timings and details. So what I've done is I've made all the figures relative to a Cognitio median speed. So basically, the larger the bar, the faster the query speed, the better. Okay, so we can see that the Cognitio median speed is at a relative speed of 1. So everything's compared to that. So there are some reports that ran faster, up to 1.6, and some reports that ran slightly slower at 0.8. So we can see that the window of the Cognitio report speeds there. Now, the same reports running on the Teradata system alone, we can see that the median was down at 0.2, which means actually by implementing Cognitio, you're getting a response time in this case which is 5 times faster. On the right-hand side, we can see some similar times for SQL Server alone versus Cognitio. And actually, the median comparisons there are actually resulting in 6 to 10 times faster performance with Cognitio. So thanks very much for listening. I'll hand back to Michael.
Thank you so much, Sharon. We do have a bunch of questions that came in we'll address in a moment. Before we do that, let me just wrap up with a couple of thoughts. So as my colleague Trevor mentioned, Cognitio is kind of that gold layer. It's meant to be a middle tier so that I put in between the persistence layer, and that helps me in my ability to dynamically orchestrate and provision between the kinds of storage I'd like to use in the persistence layer, whether that's in Enterprise Data Warehouse or Hadoop, or whether I leave the data in the legacy systems and the source systems from which it came in. Cognitio sits in the middle doing all the analytics in memory, and that's basically just being able to run very fast SQL queries that run in seconds or sub-second response times, and that feeds your BI tool, in this case MicroStrategy. So by doing this, we've had some clients that have gotten 100 or hundreds of times faster query response times, and some that have gotten, as Sharon showed, we had one example of very complex queries that ran in about 5 times faster. A number of those clients do that because they want to be able to have what some of our clients have referred to as the gold layer, meaning I have a layer in between so that I add this new tier, and that's becoming a burgeoning requirement in the big data infrastructure. In this way, whether you're using Excel on the front end or MicroStrategy or some other BI tool, it's sort of irrelevant because I'm able to write the queries against my Cognitio analytical platform and let Cognitio figure out where the data is and then rapidly bring it into memory and do the analytics on it while it's pinned into memory. So on the next slide, we'll wrap up a couple of points here. So Cognitio has been working with MicroStrategy for a number of years. We are a MicroStrategy certified partner for over 10 years now. We work really well with MicroStrategy 9. We have a number of interesting clients. There's some of them referenced on this chart here on the top right that are using MicroStrategy on top of the Cognitio analytical platform and have different data storage results. This gives us the ability to do rapid POC environments. And we've done some specialized benchmarking with MicroStrategy. We've worked deeply with the MicroStrategy labs to make some optimizations so MicroStrategy is able to use real-time caching and puts things in memory that it's able to use and create tables for that result. And we have some fantastic production clients that are getting great results. More importantly, in some cases, we have a number of partners. There's some samples of them on the right-hand side. Partners that are implementing and solutioning with MicroStrategy that are doing some quick strike type engagements with Cognitio. Things like building new dashboards that are brought directly to a mobile environment, building cloud-based reporting so that they can give executives tools that are able to be used anywhere in their, whether they're in their PDA device or whether they're in their tablet device, etc. And then on-premise appliances. So we've built several MicroStrategy Cognitio appliances that land on site and are all configured and ready to go. So Cognitio is just a standard x86 platform we run on a Linux environment. So we've been used in a lot of cases as only software, but that appliance option is nice as well. And increasingly, people are using Cognitio Cloud because they see advantage there. So I'm going to go to the next slide in just a second. Again, just mentioning that there's a lot more detail on this cognitio.com/BI Accelerator website. On the next slide, we'll have some good information for you on how you could get started. So essentially, you could get started using Cognitio for free. Cognitio is available for free. A full production license is downloadable from either the Informatica Marketplace or usable in the cloud via the Amazon Web Services Marketplace. That's a full production license. That's a perpetual use license. The only limitation is upon how much RAM memory you can use. So Cognitio is just licensed on RAM, and you can get 1/8 of a terabyte for free and actually use as much data on disk as you'd like. So Cognitio doesn't charge you for the amount of data you store on disk. You could have petabytes of data on disk. There's only a licensing fee for the amount of memory that you use. So get started for free. Cognitio.com/free will give you all the information there, lots of detail, and you could get it downloaded, build a sandbox environment if you're not interested in doing a full-blown TOC yet. On the last slide here, we're going to have some basic contact information, of course, some detail on how you can get in touch with us, and follow us on Twitter and Facebook. So again, my name is Michael Hiskey. Please feel free to get in touch with me or my colleagues, my much smarter colleagues, Dr. Sharon Kirkham and Dr. Trevor Dobbin, here at the Bracknell Lab for Cognitio. Thanks again for your time and attention today. Please do stay in touch with us. Follow us on Twitter. Look us up at the MicroStrategy World Conference this month, or follow us on Facebook. Talk to you soon.